We build castles in the air, dreams of a life that's just and fair. Yet when the winds of life rearrange, we stumble, resisting the tide of change. Welcome, dear listeners. Imagine a world where everything unfolds precisely as you wish. People meet your expectations, events align with your plans, and the notion of disappointment is but a fleeting memory. It sounds idyllic, doesn't it? Yet, reality has a rhythm of its own, one that rarely matches the melody of our desires. And herein lies the root of much of our suffering. This endless dance between expectation and reality. The world around us moves unpredictably, like waves upon the shore, sometimes calm, other times tumultuous. But our minds? They cling to a vision of how things should be, refusing to accept the waves as they are. Have you ever experienced that feeling? The sharp sting of disappointment when a friend doesn't show up as promised? The frustration when a project at work falls apart despite your best efforts? The bitterness when life throws challenges your way, uninvited and unwelcome? These moments are universal. We all share the human tendency to react when life veers off the path we've imagined. Anger flares up, sadness takes hold, resentment lingers, and all of it stems from one simple fact. We expect the world to bend to our will. But what if we've been looking at it all wrong? What if the answer isn't found in controlling life, but in understanding it? Not in resisting the waves, but in learning to move with them? Today, we embark on a journey to explore a radical yet liberating idea, the art of acceptance. This is not about surrendering to defeat or ignoring the realities of the world. It is about embracing life as it is, not as we wish it to be. It is about finding peace not in the absence of disappointment, but in the mastery of how we respond to it. In the next part, we'll step into a timeless Zen tale, a story of a seeker, a master, and a lesson in the transformative power of acceptance. But for now, I leave you with this question to ponder. How much of your suffering comes from expecting life to be different than it is? Let's unravel this mystery together. The tale of the seeker and the master. In a world of shifting sands and skies, the wise seek truth where stillness lies. Through trials that test the heart and soul, acceptance becomes the ultimate goal. In a quiet valley surrounded by majestic mountains, there lived a seeker, a man consumed by the weight of his own expectations. Every day, he found himself trapped in a cycle of hope and disappointment. Friends who made promises but failed to keep them. Plans meticulously crafted, only to unravel at the last moment. Strangers whose words cut like blades. These experiences left him bitter, restless, and yearning for peace. Determined to find solace, he embarked on a journey to seek the guidance of a renowned Zen master. After weeks of traveling through forests and across rivers, he arrived at the master's humble dwelling. The air was still, the silence broken only by the sound of leaves rustling in the breeze. The master, an old man with eyes as calm as a mountain lake, was sweeping the fallen leaves from his garden. The seeker approached, his voice trembling with frustration. "Master, I come to you burdened by a world that refuses to meet my expectations. Promises are broken, loyalty is fleeting, and people disappoint me at every turn. My heart burns with anger and sorrow. How can I find peace in such a world?" The master paused his sweeping and looked at the seeker with a gentle smile. "Ah," he said, "your heart is heavy not because of the world, but because of what you demand from it. Come, let me show you something." The first lesson, the bowl and the river. The master handed the seeker a simple clay bowl and pointed toward a flowing river nearby. "Take this bowl," he instructed, "and fill it with water. But be careful, bring it back to me without spilling a single drop." The seeker, puzzled but obedient, carefully dipped the bowl into the river. With slow, deliberate steps, he made his way back toward the master, his eyes fixed on the trembling surface of the water. As he approached, the master suddenly bumped into him, causing the water to spill. The seeker gasped, his face flushing with anger. "Why did you do that?" he exclaimed. "I worked so hard to keep the water from spilling, and you ruined it on purpose." The master's smile never wavered. "Why are you angry?" he asked. "Did I not warn you that the world would test your balance? Yet here you are, upset by something you should have expected. The seeker was taken aback. "But you spilled the water on purpose," he protested. "How could I not react?" The master crouched and picked up a small pebble from the ground. Holding it in his palm, he asked, "When the rain falls, do you curse the clouds? When the wind blows, do you scold the air?" "Of course not," the seeker replied, his voice softening. "And yet," the master continued, "when people act according to their nature, you react as though you were surprised. Is it not the same? People, like the wind and rain, follow their own paths. Their actions are beyond your control, yet you allow their choices to dictate your peace." The second lesson, the nature of the leaf. The seeker remained silent, absorbing the master's words, but a question still lingered in his heart. "Master," he asked, "how can I accept betrayal or deceit? Are we not entitled to expect goodness from others?" The master bent down and picked up a fallen leaf, holding it up for the seeker to see. "This leaf," he said, "once clung to the branch of a tree, vibrant and full of life. But now it lies here on the ground, its time on the branch complete. Would it not be foolish for me to demand that it return to the tree?" The seeker furrowed his brow. "But people are not leaves," he argued. "Surely we can expect constancy from them." The master smiled, his eyes twinkling with wisdom. "Ah, but people too have their seasons. To demand that they never change, never falter, is to fight against nature itself. The suffering you feel is not caused by others' actions, but by your refusal to accept their impermanence." A spark of understanding. Over the days that followed, the master continued to teach the seeker through small but profound lessons. One afternoon, as they sat by a still pond, the master threw a pebble into the water. The ripples spread outward, disturbing the surface for a moment before the pond returned to its natural stillness. "Observe," the master said. "The ripples come and go, but the pond remains undisturbed at its core. This is the nature of a tranquil mind. Disappointment may ripple through you, but your core must remain still." The seeker, now intrigued, asked, "How do I achieve such stillness?" The master replied, "Through acceptance. When you accept what is, instead of resisting it, the energy of disappointment fades away. Acceptance is not weakness, it is strength. It disarms those who expect anger or sorrow. They cannot disturb a mind that embraces all things as they are." The illusion of control. We grasp at life with desperate hands, hoping to shape its shifting sands. Yet the tighter we cling, the more we lose, for life flows freely, beyond our views. As the seeker spent more time with the master, a new question emerged in his mind. Why was it so difficult to let go of his expectations? Why did disappointment grip him so tightly, even when he knew better? The master, sensing his unease, said, "Come, let us walk." They strolled together along a narrow path that wound through the valley. The air was crisp, the sound of a distant river murmuring in the background. The master stopped suddenly and pointed to a butterfly struggling to free itself from a spider's web. "What do you see?" he asked. The seeker replied, "A creature trapped, fighting to escape." The master nodded. "And what do you think would happen if it struggled harder?" The seeker hesitated. "It would exhaust itself and perhaps become even more entangled." "Exactly," the master said. "This is the nature of control. The more we fight against the natural flow of life, the tighter we become bound by our own struggles." The weight of expectations. The master turned to the seeker and continued, "Control is an illusion we cling to, hoping it will protect us from chaos. We impose expectations on people, events, and even ourselves, believing that if we hold on tightly enough, we can shape the outcome." The seeker nodded. "Yes, I often feel that way. I plan carefully. I try to guide others, and yet things still go wrong." The master smiled knowingly. "The problem lies not in your effort, but in your attachment to the result. You believe that your peace depends on the world aligning with your desires. But life, like the wind and rain, moves according to its own nature. To demand otherwise is to invite suffering." He picked up a handful of sand from the path and held it out to the seeker. "Close your hand around the sand," he instructed. The seeker did as he was told, clenching his fist tightly. When he opened his hand, most of the sand had slipped through his fingers. "Now, hold the sand lightly in your palm," the master said. The seeker followed the instruction and noticed that the sand remained in his hand. "You see," the master explained, "the tighter you grip, the more you lose. But when you hold lightly, you retain what matters. This is the nature of control. It is never truly ours. The more we force it, the more it slips away, releasing the illusion." The seeker reflected on the master's words, but doubt still lingered. "But master," he said, "if we do not seek control, how can we make progress? How can we achieve our goals?" The master gestured toward the river they had passed earlier. The river flows freely, carving its path through the land. It does not force its way but follows the contours of the earth. And yet, over time, it shapes mountains and creates valleys. He continued, "In the same way, we must move with life rather than against it. Release the need to control, and instead focus on your actions, your intentions. Plant seeds, but do not demand that they sprout tomorrow. Allow them to grow in their own time." The seeker's brow furrowed as he absorbed this wisdom. "So, we let go of control, but we do not give up effort?" "Precisely," the master said. "Effort is your offering to the world. Control is the chain you must release. True peace comes not from dominating life, but from participating in its flow. The freedom of acceptance." As they returned to the master's home, the seeker noticed the lightness in his own heart. For the first time, he felt the stirrings of liberation, the realization that he could let go, not of action, but of the need to dictate every outcome, was like a breath of fresh air. The master offered one final thought for the day. When you let go of control, you free yourself from the weight of expectations. And in that freedom, you discover something even greater, the ability to fully embrace the present moment. Wisdom is not found in words, but in the way we live. Peace is not a distant dream, but a choice we give. In each breath, each moment, lessons unfold. Acceptance, my friends, is worth more than gold. Let's take a step further. My friends, understanding the concept of acceptance is one thing, but weaving it into the fabric of our daily lives is where transformation truly begins. Today, let's explore some practical ways to live with acceptance and bring peace into our everyday moments. First, let's talk about expectations. Disappointment often stems from unmet expectations. So, the next time you feel frustration creeping in, take a moment to pause. Ask yourself, what was I expecting in this moment? Why did I have that expectation? And how can I release it? These questions might sound simple, but they hold the key to breaking the cycle of disappointment. Now, let's anchor ourselves in the present. Whenever you feel overwhelmed, return to your breath. Inhale deeply for 4 counts, hold it for 4 counts, and exhale slowly for 6 counts. Do this 3 times. Feel the air entering and leaving your body, grounding you in the here and now. This small practice can bring an incredible sense of calm to even the most chaotic moments. Next, let's reframe how we see disappointment. Instead of seeing it as a failure, view it as a teacher. For example, imagine spilling a cup of coffee right before an important meeting. Instead of reacting with frustration, think of it as a reminder of life's impermanence, a moment to laugh at the unexpected and move forward. And here's something small but powerful. Practice letting go in everyday situations. When someone cuts in line or speaks harshly to you, take a deep breath, smile instead of frowning, pause before responding, and notice how much lighter you feel. It's in these small acts that acceptance begins to grow. Finally, let's embrace uncertainty. Life will always have its twists and turns, but instead of resisting the unknown, prepare for it. Each morning, write down one thing you can't control about your day. Then, write down how you'll adapt if things don't go as planned. This small practice shifts your mindset from resistance to readiness, turning uncertainty into a source of possibility. Through these small but meaningful actions, you'll start to notice a change. The weight of expectations will lift, the sting of disappointment will soften, and you'll find a sense of peace you never thought possible. Acceptance, my friends, is not just a concept, it's a way of living. To forgive is not to forget, but to set yourself free, to release the chains of anger and let your heart simply be. Forgiveness, my friends, is not for the other. It's the peace you find when you heal and recover. Now, let's dive deeper into one of the most profound aspects of acceptance: forgiveness. Forgiveness is a word we often hear, but its true meaning and power are not always understood. Many people think that forgiving someone means excusing their actions or forgetting what they did. But in reality, forgiveness is about freedom. Your freedom. When you hold on to anger or resentment, it's like carrying a heavy backpack filled with stones. Each grudge, each painful memory, adds another stone to the load. Over time, this weight becomes unbearable, draining your energy and stealing your peace. But when you forgive, you set that backpack down. You free yourself from the burden of carrying the past. Let me share a simple example. Imagine you've been wronged by a friend. Perhaps they broke a promise or betrayed your trust. The natural response might be anger or bitterness. But who suffers most from those emotions? It's not the other person, it's you. By forgiving, you're not saying their actions were acceptable. Instead, you're choosing not to let their behavior define your emotional state. Forgiveness is not a sign of weakness. In fact, it's one of the greatest acts of strength. It takes courage to let go of pain, to rise above anger, and to find compassion, even for those who have hurt you. As the Buddha taught, holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to suffer. So how do we practice forgiveness in everyday life? Start small. Think of a minor grievance, a rude comment, a forgotten favor, or a small misunderstanding. Close your eyes and imagine yourself releasing the anger tied to that moment. Picture it like a balloon floating away, becoming smaller and smaller until it disappears. Notice how your body feels when you let it go. Lighter, isn't it? Now, for the bigger challenges, the deeper wounds. Forgiveness here is a process, not an event. It might take time, and that's okay. Begin by acknowledging your feelings. Allow yourself to feel the hurt, but don't let it consume you. Then, remind yourself that forgiveness is for your benefit, not theirs. You don't need to forget what happened, but you can choose to release its grip on your heart. And let's be clear, forgiving doesn't mean condoning harmful behavior. If someone's actions are toxic, you can set boundaries to protect yourself. Forgiveness doesn't mean staying silent in the face of injustice. It means refusing to let that injustice take away your inner peace. Finally, consider this. When you forgive, you create a ripple effect. Your peace, your calm, inspires those around you. Imagine a world where forgiveness replaces resentment, where understanding takes the place of judgment. It starts with you, my friends. With every act of forgiveness, you make the world a little brighter. So, I leave you with this thought. Who or what do you need to forgive today? Remember, forgiveness is not about them. It's about you. It's about finding the freedom to live with an unburdened heart. A single drop creates a wave, a simple act, a life to save. Peace begins within your heart, and from there, the ripples start. Let's take a moment to imagine something powerful. Picture a still pond on a quiet morning. You toss in a small pebble, and the ripples spread outward, one after another, touching the farthest edges of the water. This, my friends, is the ripple effect, a phenomenon where one small act can create waves of change far beyond what we can see. When we practice acceptance, forgiveness, and inner peace, we don't just transform ourselves, we inspire those around us. Our calm in the face of chaos, our ability to respond with grace instead of anger, sends a silent message to others. There is another way. Think about this. Have you ever been in a heated argument, only for someone to suddenly lower their voice, diffuse the tension, and shift the entire energy of the room? That person created a ripple, a wave of calm that influenced everyone present. Now imagine if you became the source of such ripples, not just once, but every day. How peace spreads. Acceptance is contagious. When someone sees you remain composed in a challenging situation, they notice. Maybe they don't say anything, but they begin to wonder, how do they stay so calm? How can I do that too? This curiosity is the first ripple, one that can lead others to seek their own path to peace. For example, let's say you're in a workplace meeting and tensions are running high. Instead of joining in the stress and frustration, you choose to listen attentively and respond thoughtfully. Your colleagues may still be frazzled, but your presence serves as a reminder that there's no need to panic. Over time, they may even begin to emulate your behavior. The power of compassion. Peace also spreads through acts of compassion. When we approach others with understanding instead of judgment, we create a safe space for them to grow. Imagine someone who feels misunderstood or isolated. A kind word, a listening ear, or even a simple smile can make a profound difference in their day and perhaps in their life. Compassion doesn't need to be grand. It's found in the small moments, letting someone merge in traffic without frustration, giving a stranger the benefit of the doubt, or taking a moment to thank someone for their efforts. These actions seem minor, but their impact can echo far beyond what we see, creating a chain reaction. Here's where it gets even more exciting. Your actions don't just influence the people you directly interact with. They influence the people they interact with. Let me give you an example. Imagine you show kindness to a coworker who's having a rough day. That small gesture lifts their spirits, and later, they're more patient with their family at home. Their child, feeling supported, goes to school the next day and helps a friend in need. That friend, inspired by the kindness they received, passes it on to someone else. The chain continues, rippling outward, touching lives you'll never even know. This is the power of peace and acceptance. It's exponential. One act can inspire hundreds, even thousands. Over time, your role in the world. So, here's the big question. What kind of ripple will you create? Every interaction, every decision, is an opportunity to spread peace or amplify conflict. The choice is always yours. You don't need to be perfect, nor do you need to have all the answers. Simply start where you are. Take one small step each day toward acceptance, forgiveness, and compassion. With time, these ripples will grow, reaching farther than you ever imagined. And remember, the ripples you create don't just touch others, they return to you. The peace you share with the world becomes the peace you carry within yourself. Life's lessons don't come all at once. They unfold gently, as we balance and dance. To live with peace is not to arrive, but to grow, to learn, to truly thrive. Now that we've explored how acceptance can transform our responses to life's challenges, let's talk about making it a part of your everyday life. You see, these teachings aren't just ideas to ponder, they're practices to live by. And like any skill, the art of acceptance requires time, patience, and consistency to truly take root. One way to begin is to start your day with a simple intention. Before diving into the rush of tasks and responsibilities, pause for a moment, take a deep breath, and ask yourself, what kind of energy do I want to bring into the world today? How will I respond when things don't go as planned? These quiet reflections may seem small, but they set the tone for the entire day. As the day unfolds, life will, of course, test your patience. And in those moments, the power of a simple pause can make all the difference. When frustration starts to creep in, whether it's a traffic jam, a disagreement, or a sudden change in plans, take a breath. Inhale deeply, hold it for a moment, then exhale slowly. This pause creates space for a choice. Is my reaction helping or hurting? Can I let this go and find peace instead? And here's something important to remember. You won't always get it right, and that's okay. There will be days when you lose your temper, hold on to anger, or struggle to let go of disappointment. But acceptance starts with being kind to yourself. Every mistake is just another chance to learn, to grow, and to try again. Progress isn't about being perfect. It's about standing back up each time you fall. As you practice, you'll begin to notice small victories. Maybe you chose not to argue over something trivial, or perhaps you forgave someone for a minor mistake. These moments might seem insignificant, but they're signs of growth. Celebrate them. Each step forward strengthens your ability to live with peace. Another powerful way to nurture acceptance is through gratitude. At the end of the day, take a moment to reflect on what went well. Maybe it was a kind word from a friend, a moment of quiet, or the way sunlight felt on your face. Gratitude helps shift your focus from what's wrong to what's right, reminding you that even in the midst of challenges, there's beauty to be found. The truth is, living a life of acceptance doesn't mean you'll never feel frustration or disappointment, but it does mean that over time, you'll learn to move through those feelings with greater ease. You'll find yourself reacting less, understanding more, and carrying a sense of peace that no external challenge can take away. So, as we close this chapter, I encourage you to take these teachings and make them your own. Practice them in your relationships, in your work, and in the quiet moments you spend with yourself. Remember, the journey of acceptance isn't a destination. It's a way of being, unfolding with each breath, each choice, and each day. Peace is not found, it's uncovered within, a journey of moments where we begin. It's not the world that we need to change, but how we see it, how we rearrange. As we arrive at the final part of this journey, let's take a moment to reflect. Throughout our time together, we've explored the profound teachings of acceptance, forgiveness, and the ripple effect of peace. We've seen how disappointment, frustration, and even anger can be transformed, not by changing the world around us, but by changing how we choose to respond. Think back to the seeker, who began his journey burdened by the weight of his expectations. He wanted the world to align with his desires, yet every time it didn't, he found himself caught in the cycle of frustration and pain. Through the guidance of the Master, he learned a powerful truth. Peace isn't about controlling life, it's about mastering the way you engage with it. This is where the essence of Zen lies, in meeting life as it is, not as we wish it to be. When we let go of our need to control, we free ourselves from the constant struggle of resistance, and in that freedom, we discover something extraordinary: stillness, clarity, and an unshakable peace. But this isn't just a philosophy for ancient times or distant places. It's a way of life that each of us can embrace. Here and now, every day, we have countless opportunities to practice acceptance. When things don't go as planned, we can pause and breathe. When someone lets us down, we can choose to forgive. When we're overwhelmed by the uncertainties of life, we can anchor ourselves in the present moment. And let's not forget the power of the ripples we create. Every time you choose calm over conflict, kindness over judgment, or understanding over frustration, you send waves of peace into the world. You inspire others to do the same, creating a chain reaction that extends far beyond what you can see. So, my friends, as you move forward, I leave you with this thought. The path to peace isn't about perfection. It's about practice. It's about choosing, moment by moment, to live with intention, to embrace life's imperfections, and to find beauty in its unpredictability. As you walk this path, let the symbols we've explored guide you: the still pond, the mountain that cannot be shaken by the wind, the fallen leaf that accepts its place on the ground. Let them remind you that peace is not something you seek. It's something you uncover within yourself. Thank you for being here, for sharing this journey, and for opening your heart to these teachings. May you find joy in the practice, strength in the process, and peace in every step of the way.